Alright you guys, what's up? This is part 2 of the MSP series here on Cujo Sound, and I'm Bjørn Jacobsen. And this time we're going to be looking a little bit at toggles and how we can use the buttons on my Nano Control 2 instead of the knobs or the faders. Let's get to it. Alright, so here we are back in our familiar MSP environment, and we can, to use these buttons here, on each channel strip on the Nano controller, it has a record, mute, and solo button. That's at least what they're intended to be used for, but you can use them for whatever you want. If we make a controller input like this, and we check out whatever comes in, I hit the solo button. If I hit the solo button here, you'll see that this is controller number 32, and it changes between being max and 0. Now if I hit T, I get a toggle. This is not a button, but it's a toggle. I can drag and drop this here. So if I turn on this, it turns on and it turns off. Turns on and it turns off. Simply because this here is affected by whenever the value changes. So have in mind that if we, let's say, turn it on and the value is now 127 and we add the toggle, again, it still works because it registers if the value is 0 or above 1 or there above. If we add an integer number box here and then say we want this value to be sent through here, you will see that the value passes through it. We can also filter this value a little bit by adding a new and then call it, this is just /, this is / means divide. We could say divide by 127. So this here has two inlets, the right operand and the number that we want to put into it. So if we divide by 127, that should mean now that whenever we put a value into this, it should come out as 1. So we're sending the value 127 into it, and it comes out as 1 because it's divided by 127. So now we have suddenly made a tool, a basic simple calculation that calculates our input signal, our input MIDI max signal of 127, and changes it to a binary value of 1 and 0. So if we make a patch that looks like this, it has controller 32, 48, and 64. Those are the buttons, the solo and the mute and the record button of channel strip number 1. We can save that, and we call it the Nano Control channel buttons in here. So if we add this and then say Nano Control channel buttons, but not like that, it doesn't exist. As you can see over here, no such object. That's what it tells us in the debug, which means that there is no such object. But if we write in the S, then you will see. What comes out of it is the values that we set in our outputs. So if we put on a toggle here and a toggle here and a toggle here, that means that this now controls these 3 input buttons. So the point of this is that you don't have to invent the wheel all the time. You can make this patch and you can call it whatever you want. I've made all these here called channel strip 1, channel strip 2, channel strip 3. Instead of having them all in one, this means that I can now, whenever I make a patch, just load this Nano Control strip 1, 2, or 3, or whatever, if I want to use one channel in a specific patch. So if we clear this out and then say I want to use Nano Control strip 4, so this Nano Control strip 4 here now controls, if you see this here, we drag and drop from here to here, I've made one for each of the channels, so for all 8 channels. Now if I hit any button here, nothing happens, but on channel 4 it works, which means that I can now use this sub patch in whatever patch I want and control and use these 3 buttons here to do whatever I want, like turn on time stretch, turn off time stretch, so on. You can always just delete these and use these toggles to come in here and then say they do. Now if you don't remember which one did what, then you can always hit C for comment and write that this is Nano Control strip number, if I could, there you go, strip number 4 buttons, like that, drag and drop it there. Nano Control, this is just a comment, it doesn't do anything, it's just there. So now I can sort of, like, in case I had to give the patch to someone else, then they don't have to know all my sub patches, they can just read all these. So this is now, it's basically just a controller which controls the input of channel number 4 on this thing here. So we have this here which controls our Nano Controller strip 4. I also have another one right here called the Nano Control Fader, which I made. It's pre-made one that I have. So we say Nano Control Fader, put in an integer number box, and we want it to be controlled from number 4, which means that now that we have not only the buttons, as you can see, they turn on the toggles, they also control, we also have the fader here that I can turn up and down. And we also want the knob at the very top. So we can open this up here and we have Nano Control knobs, which is one that I made. Load this, Nano Control knobs. There you go. See, the namings have to be correct, and that's one of the problems, the minor problems that you might experience with this. So let's put in an integer number here, and we're going to use number 4. So now I can turn this this knob here on channel 4 on strip number 4, and we can now use all the buttons, and we can also use the fader on channel 4. Okay, so the last thing for this video here is that I'm going to check out that any signal that comes into anything will trigger a so-called bang. A bang is basically just like poking an object, like whatever. Like if you're storing a value somewhere, you can poke it with a bang and then it'll purge it. We'll get to that later, but let's if we put in a button, the button is basically a bang. So the ultimate debug tool is the print. Just as in Unity, in any code language, you want to print it. Now, if anything that comes into this print object here will be printed over here in our list of debug stuff. So if we take the button there, see? It prints a bang over here. Bang is just the name of what you call it. It could also have been poke or just touch or whatever. You could have called it whatever you wanted, but it's bang. Now if we drag, let's say, if we delete the button and drag this down here, this is the fader 4 on our Nano Control. Now if I touch this, you'll see an array of numbers come in. And it's just changing from 0 to whatever value the fader is at. And it's printing it over there. Now, we could also say that this fader now goes to the button. So every time I touch the fader, it's going to trigger the button and send a bang. So if we make a print here, you will quite quickly see that there's thousands of bangs already just by using the fader up and down a little bit. This is very useful for understanding how to trigger various things, trigger controllers and things like that. It's really important to know that you can use any value, any number, any message, whatever, to trigger a bang and throw something at something. So you don't need it to be a button, you don't need it to be all these things. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let's move on to the next one. Subscribe on Patreon, here on YouTube, hit the like button, go to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.